Hey everybody, I'm back with another awesome video. Just kidding, it's probably going to be another mediocre video. No. But anyways, guys, I am taking a request from one of my subscribers. Let's see here. And it's a great question, awesome request. I've talked about this before, not on my channel, but with friends, family, especially me and my brother. We're big sports fanatics. We love sports. Growing up, I was always into sports. You name it, whether it be watching tennis, playing golf and watching golf, basketball, football, you name it. So big sports fanatic. Yeah, I'm aware that a lot of sports, especially nowadays in this, money grabbing world, I'm pretty sure a lot of sports, like I've said many times on my other videos and live streams that I've done, are rigged, especially the team sports. The referees get too involved, and, politics, money. Anytime money's involved, Las Vegas, yeah, a lot of sports are rigged. But I'm still a huge sports fan nonetheless. I just think it's great, and if you play sports yourself, it's great for your body, depending on what type of sport it is. So, yeah, big sports fan here. But this question is, let's see, make sure I got my email all ready. Make sure I'm reading this right. Justin explains everything. I enjoy your videos. I enjoy your content. But I was curious on a subject that I know you actually enjoy. So, hey, at least he knows I enjoy the subject. What's your opinion on Lance Armstrong, the disgraced former American cyclist that won the Tour de France 7 times in a row from 1999 to 2005, 7 consecutive years? On your view of him today, and how would you rate him as an athlete? I want to make sure I'm reading this right. How would you rate him as an athlete and a person overall? Role model, athletic career. How would you rate him? Honestly, yeah, like I said, it's a great question. I was also a huge fan growing up, in the 90s and early 2000s, early mid 2000s, of Lance Armstrong. I think what Lance Armstrong accomplished during that 7-year stretch, 99, 2000, 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 7 consecutive Tour de France victories in a row. I mean, the previous record was 5, and nobody's gotten to 6, nobody's gotten to 7 except for Lance Armstrong. We all know USADA, which stands for the United States Anti-Doping Agency. I believe it was 7 or 8 years after Lance retired, or after he won his final Tour de France in 2005. He retired after 05, but then came back in 09 and then 2010 for 2 years. Didn't win anymore, but he was still fairly competitive. But anyways, after he won his final Tour de France in 05, then 7 years later in 2012, USADA, United States Anti-Doping Agency, put together this ridiculous, I thought it was ridiculous, it was like a 500-page investigation case file against Lance Armstrong, claiming that he was doping the whole time, cheating, and that all 7 of his Tour de France victories basically are void. They're no good. Lance finally, after the charges were brought against him, instead of fighting him, because he fought these allegations for years and years and years, he finally came forward and just admitted, yeah, I doped, I used performance-enhancing drugs during those 7 years of winning the Tour de France, and he claims he did use steroids the whole 7 years, every year. But, having said that, I still think that the whole thing was just a total ridiculous witch hunt. And then, of course, by the way, USADA, United States Anti-Doping Agency, ended up stripping him, consequently, of all 7 wins at the Tour de France. They stripped him of other victories as well, and other races, other bicycling races. And basically his whole legacy has been tarnished, pretty much erased, from the record books, all of his accomplishments. He's not obviously in the Hall of Fame as a cyclist. He's also banned for life from ever competing in anything ever again related to cycling or any kind of, I believe it's Olympic athletics as well, anything sponsored by United States Anti-Doping Agency. That includes, I think, marathons, everything, because he's considered a lifelong doper, cheater. Me personally, when you go back on all those years that he won the Tour de France, those 7 consecutive seasons, 99 through 2005, it's been proven time and time again that pretty much every single one of his competitors that he competed against during those Tour de France victories was also dopers, cheaters. They were also using drugs, performance enhancers, to gain a competitive edge over the rest. And why do you think, in case you guys don't know this, they never even replaced his 7 victories with a winner? If you look up his 7 wins, there's just a line through his name, and they're saying nobody won those races for 7 consecutive years. Nobody won those races. But other dopers that have gotten caught, they stripped their name as well, but then they replaced it with whoever came in 2nd place that year, or 3rd place, or 4th. Whoever was supposed to be clean, they ended up giving the victory to. But with Lance, they never did that. They just erased all his wins, didn't even give the trophy or the victory or the prize money to any of his competitors because they all cheated. I mean, if you look at his victories for those 7 years, every single one of the guys that finished second to him, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all later on in their career was caught doping and cheating. So I think they were embarrassed, and they're like, well, we can't give the victory to anybody. So we're just going to say for 7 straight years, nobody won the race. To me, I have a problem with that. I think that's hypocritical. I think it's ridiculous. And I mean, could you imagine in, like, let's just say as an example, the NFL, football. Could you imagine if they, like later on down the line in the future said the New England Patriots, who winner of 6 Super Bowls, during the Tom Brady era, was found, and proven time and time again to have, broken this rule, broken that rule. We're going to punish them and erase all 6 of their Super Bowl victories, and we're not going to award the Super Bowl to anybody. Could you imagine how embarrassing that would be for football and NFL football? That would just be embarrassing, and something like that would never happen. They would never do something like that to a sport like football. Just erase all your victories, your Super Bowl championships. I don't know. But again, a lot of people don't agree with my opinion, my take on the whole. Excuse me one second, guys. A lot of people don't agree with me on my take on Lance Armstrong and his accomplishments, and me standing by him and saying time and time again, hey, why didn't they just let it go? He had already been retired from the sport. He was 7 or 8 years removed from winning his final Tour de France, his 7th and final victory, and then 7, 8 years later, they come back on him and remove all of his victories, dating all the way back from 99 to 2005. I mean, I don't know. I just think that's a little bit too much, and I would definitely call that a witch hunt. The only reason why these agencies that were against Armstrong, including the United States Anti-Doping Agency, is because they got a confession out of him. But that's because they freaking was hounding him, and all these different agencies, anti-doping agencies, was constantly hounding him for a decade or more. At least 10 to 12 years they were constantly hounding him. Even after he won his first Tour de France in 1999, they were hounding him. And he always denied, because what else could he do? He knew he was beating other cheaters, and in his mind, I think he felt it was right, because he was competing against guys that were also cheating, and he kept beating them every single year. And so he denied. And then finally, after all them years, and they finally said, hey, we got you, here's a 500-page case report against you, claiming that you cheated. I think he finally just, was like, okay, you guys got me. I'm done. I'm going to keep, I'm going to stop fighting these charges. I'm going to move on with my life. And that's what he did. But if you talk to Lance Armstrong today, and he's got a great podcast on YouTube, actually, great podcast where he covers all the different races, cycling races, including Tour de France and all the other big races. Um, he still today has said numerous times, he won the Tour de France 7 times, which he did. He competed in it, all those races, won it, finished first place, crossed the finish line first, and all those races. And he's admitted numerous times before he's still the winner. He's still the 7-time Tour de France champion, and I agree with him on there. I agree. I mean, can you imagine, like I said earlier, all these different athletes that have cheated and teams that have cheated in team sports, and nothing ever happens to them. People just let it go. They're like, okay, maybe they did cheat, but it's in the past now. We're not going to go back several years and start erasing their championships because that's just ridiculous. That's asinine. What are they going to do next? Go back to the 1980s and start erasing different accomplishments by famous athletes because they found out 40 years ago they were cheating? I don't know. I just think that's ridiculous. There should be like a statute of limitations or something. But I know in sports, I don't think there is. It's not like law, like a criminal crime where there's a statute. But even in sports, there needs to be some sort of a limit on how far they can go back on these athletes, these teams, and just erase their accomplishments. I just think that's totally asinine, especially when it's an athlete that's competing against other cheaters, and beating those cheaters. I don't know. I just think it's dumb. I could understand if Lance Armstrong was the only one cheating during that 7-year period when he was winning every year. I could understand that. Then that would be unfair. He would probably deserve to lose everything. But he was competing against other dirty athletes that were doing just pretty much the exact same type of doping that he was doing. So, that's just that. That's my 2 cents. That's my opinion. And as for him still being an athletic sports role model for thousands, actually millions of people, I would still say he's a role model. Not to mention, I totally forgot all the hard work he put in with the Live Strong Foundation, which was through him and Nike, to raise money and awareness for cancer, and which is a horrible disease. All the people that have died from cancer, and it's ruined their life. Lance Armstrong beat cancer in the mid 90s. I think it was 96, 97. He had cancer. They didn't think he was going to live. Because he beat it, and his story was so amazing, he wanted to make his own foundation, which, by the way, they've gotten rid of that too. These people have torn everything away from him, his Live Strong Cancer Foundation, all of the, obviously all of his victories that he's won, they've gotten rid of, and basically erased the man from the record books. I personally think it's a joke. I think it's sad. I think he was made, I don't know, I guess you would call it, he was made into a scapegoat. He was basically used as an example. That's the only thing that I could come up with. People maybe just didn't like the guy. Maybe they thought he was too arrogant. I don't know. But I still think that that's one of the most disgraceful things in sports, to just completely ban a legend like that and erase everything that they've accomplished as if they didn't even exist, as if they were never even around. I just think that's ridiculous. I think eventually there needs to be a movement in the cycling community, the cycling world, in sports as a whole, all of sport, to get Lance Armstrong back in the sport again. Not as a cyclist anymore. The guy's in his 50s now. Obviously, he's not going to compete anymore, but he should be removed from the ban list because he's banned for life, and they should reinstate all of his victories. I think he deserves all 7 Tour de France victories that he won, and he should be the record holder. Nobody else has won the Tour de France 7 times. Nobody's really even come close to that. 5 might sound close, but that's a big, separation, big gap between 7 and 5. Because we all know, anyone that follows cycling, winning the Tour de France 1 time is like really hard. So and he won it 7. A couple other guys won it 5 times. Miguel Indurain was one of them, the Spaniard. And then the rest, like I think 3 times, 4 times, 2 times. But nobody's even sniffed 7 Tour de France victories. So yeah, I think my opinion is, to answer your question, I think he's still a great, legendary athlete and should be an ambassador for the sport of cycling, even though he's not anymore. They don't allow him to be an ambassador. And I still think he's a great American hero, a great American story. He beat cancer. They didn't even, I think they gave him like a 20% chance of living, 15-20% chance. He beat cancer. After beating cancer, then he comes back, wins the Tour de France 7 years in a row, dominates the sport, raised millions and millions and millions, maybe even $1 billion for money for cancer awareness, cancer research, through his Livestrong Foundation. I just think if we're going to talk about, the positives over here and maybe the negatives over here, I would say his positives are way up here and would outweigh his negatives way down here by a lot. I mean, yeah, does he have some negatives? But I would say the positives, it's like this, completely outweighs all of the negatives. Having Lance Armstrong in the cycling community and in just the sports arena altogether is better for sport. It's better for cycling, and I think it's better for, to be honest, culture, American culture, and just a great story. And I think having him involved and him still as the figurehead or the face of the sport should be the way it is. I think he should be at least in the Tour de France community. I mean, nobody competed in the Tour de France the way he did. Nobody performed in the Tour de France the way he did. And that's the biggest race of the year. I mean, the Tour de France is essentially the Super Bowl of cycling. I mean, it is the Super Bowl. So, I'm going to have to say I totally disagree with United States Anti-Doping Agency and all the detractors that have tore Lance Armstrong down. I totally disagree with it. To me, he's still an American hero, an American legend, and a global hero, global icon. But more importantly, an American icon. I mean, he is from this country. No American cyclist has accomplished what he accomplished. The only other cyclist in American history that even came somewhat close to Lance Armstrong was Greg LeMond. And Greg LeMond, I think, only won the Tour de France like 3 times. Lance 7. So, yeah, Lance Armstrong should definitely be the face of definitely American cycling and the face of Tour de France cycling. I mean, his legacy should always be held up there, and it should be preserved. It shouldn't be torn down. They already tore it down, what, 10 years ago? Whatever it was, when they stripped him of all his wins. I think it's time they need to, stop being, a baby about it, stop being a freaking child, and give the man the respect, the due respect that he deserves. His accomplishments, like I said, go not just in cycling, but well beyond cycling, what he's accomplished in life, inspiring people, especially young adults that had to battle cancer, and he gave them inspiration and hope and aspirations to beat the disease and, live a full, happy life and accomplish all their dreams, all their goals. I think he's done that. Like I said, his positives heavily outweigh the negatives of his life and his legacy. Again, like I said, that's my opinion. That's my 2 cents. If it was up to me, yeah, Lance Armstrong would be, back in the sport again as an ambassador. He's now, I think, 51 years old, 51 or 52 years old. He should be an ambassador for the sport. His record of 7 Tour de France wins should be put back in, restored, reinstated. And I think he should be, given, like I said, the utmost respect, and they should apologize to the man. Will that ever happen? Probably not, but, as sports fans and also fans of cycling, we can only hope that something like that will happen one day, eventually. Okay, guys, I am going to call this a video. I don't think I'm going to be doing any more videos tonight. I'll see. But I did want to take this request. I think it was a great question. Lance Armstrong, has been an athlete and just a person that I've always admired. I think that his work as an athlete and former ambassador of the sport of cycling, and I say former because they took that away from him, I think has been amazing. And I think it's cool what he's doing on YouTube with his own podcast as well. So, guys, before I wrap this up, I want to mention, don't forget to hit the like. It helps the channel. It helps the channel grow. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and also hit the notification bell. That way you get alerts on my videos, my content. Also, if you want me to do a request like this one, you could either go to my About section and email me a request. I read my emails usually every day. Or if you don't want to do that, it might be easier to just go here down below in the comment section and leave me and give me a request. Ask me, hey, Justin, cover this. Justin, cover that. So, anyways, that's going to do it. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. Stay safe out there, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace out, everybody.